Well, thanks once again for joining us here at Small Cap Stocks today. I am your host, Dave Donlin, and today, as we always, feature a special guest. And my guest today is Paul Duffy, CEO of AIML Innovations, Inc. Now, AIML Innovations, Inc. has realigned its business operations to capitalize on the burgeoning fields. AI, obviously, is artificial intelligence, and ML is machine learning, with an initial investment focus on emerging digital health and well-being companies that leverage AI, ML, cloud computing, and digital platforms to drive transformative healthcare management solutions and precision support delivery across the health continuum. AIML's shares are traded on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol AIML, the OTCQB venture market under AIMLF, and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange under 42FB. Now, without further ado, let's speak with our special guest, Paul Duffy. Paul, welcome to the show. Your company is focused on capitalizing on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Tell us more about that.
Sure, would love to, Dave, and thank you for having me. First off, AIML is a super exciting company. I got involved about 30 days ago as the CEO, took the helm at that time. We invest and operate a basket of companies, Health Gauge and Tech to Heal specifically, that have some pretty phenomenal AI and healthcare platforms. And here's what I mean by that. We've got some wearable technology. We call it the Pulse Whisperer, which is some firmware, some SDK, and some APIs that allow us to embed on things like watches and other types of wearables. The ability to take back a biometric signal and then run it through our patented and proprietary neural network. So think about something like a blood pressure measurement neural network. And then going through the neural network and coming out the back end of that, we're able to take a very precise measurement from those biometric signals and pass it over to one of our intelligent remote patient monitoring platforms so that it can be actioned. In other words, a healthcare provider, a physiotherapist, for instance, or frankly, even an individual can take advantage of that very precise information and then act upon it. So we refer to it as capture, analyze, and action as our tech stack. And we've basically been tearing it up with that technology in the healthcare sector.
Interesting, and the whole sector, when you're talking about artificial intelligence, people really getting that as a buzzword these days. Machine learning, I think a lot of people are trying to get up on the learning scale, so to speak, to find out what that is. Your initial focus on AI ML innovations is, you kind of alluded to it there, is the emerging digital healthcare space. Why choose that particular segment, Paul?
Well, it's for a couple of reasons. The first is that, as you know, the healthcare market, globally, is, frankly, probably one of, if not the biggest market on the planet. It has multiple segments, multiple subsegments. And if you've got, some really core engineering and some core technology, and you can point it into some very specific segments and then go very deep with that technology, you can have a number of winners. And so here's what I mean. For instance, that blood pressure measurement neural net I was talking about, the ability to be able to land and expand through retail pharma, for instance, by selling something like one of our watches where, for $249, you can put it on the shelf and you can purchase and get about 12 months of measurement and monitoring in the process. This gives our retail partners like the pharmas, the opportunity, or the pharmacies, the opportunity to touch their customer multiple times a day. Because anybody that takes blood pressure from a wearable, they don't just do it once a month or, frankly, once every week. They do it 5 or 6 times a day. And they're always out looking at their phone to see how they're tracking. And so that gives the retail pharmacy the opportunity to present that information in, I'll just say, a more marketable manner for the patient. Another area that we're very strong in, and we're seeing great traction, is in the world of clinical trials. Because we do have the ability with our capture technology through wearables, our AI to analyze and provide precise measurement, and then deliver that to our remote patient monitoring, clinical trials has turned out to be a phenomenal opportunity for us. In Europe, for instance, we have literally Europe's largest clinical trial running on our platform, Alekim. There's 30,000 patients. They're in the citizens, literally, of the country of France, who are going through our platforms right now in a 5-year study as France understands the societal impact of moving the retirement age from 65 to 70. And frankly, because our platforms are so robust, we were awarded that contract just given the quality and the regulatory requirements of our platform. So that's a great area where when we look at a new market in healthcare, clinical trials, our tech fits wonderfully into a segment called clinical management software systems, which is a beautiful $2 billion market, fairly untouched, no gorillas in there, but we're uniquely positioned to grow and scale inside that business. So that's why I love healthcare, because there's always so many use cases and point solutions that can become deep, enduring revenue opportunities for us.
Yeah, there's some statistics that are out there right now, which I know your company is actually featured, where you talk about business model. And I'll give our listeners some interesting numbers here. Really astounding when you look at it. Digital health market in 2019, $84 billion. Projected digital health market in 2026, $220.94 billion. I mean, that's a ginormous market, as you pointed out, to go after that segment first. Totally get that. Now, although many investors are excited about the potential use of AI, there are still some out there that look at AI as a negative. How do you approach them regarding your business model utilizing AI?
Well, that's a great question. What we use AI for specifically, which I think, kind of abates everybody's concerns and fears, is in our neural networks. And they need to be trained, right? So neural nets themselves use AI and machine learning to essentially improve the quality of the output based on the input signal. And so in that specific area, there's really no danger other than just getting an improvement on the signal. So, there's no, how do I say this? There's nothing untoward that could possibly happen out of a scenario like that. The second area where we use AI is in a remote patient monitoring platforms, where they are taking in a considerable amount of information, and then they're using AI and predictive analytics to better understand how to action that information. But the good news from our perspective is our actions are simply recommendations. There is nothing that we do that, frankly, a user, a patient, or even a participant in one of these studies would actually just see on their phone. And if they didn't like it, they wouldn't act upon it. There's nothing there that would put anybody, quote, at risk. So we probably, if there was a spectrum of AI concerns, and on the far left, it was, there's no big deal. And on the far right, watch it, the world could end. We're way over on the left where there's very little issues at all. In fact, and we do that intentionally because, with all of our AIs, all our platforms, we're seeking FDA software as a medical device certification. And so any potential AI that comes out with our tech is all being done with the intent that it will be certified through regulatory boards and through the FDA. So, we do that practically in everything that we're involved in.
Sure, gotcha. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So the company you mentioned, you kind of alluded to a couple of the partnerships that you have. HealthGauge, one of them, another one, Tech to Heal. I know you have at least one other one on the partnership side involved with AIML Innovations Inc. Can you give us an overview, just a brief overview of a couple of these partnerships that you have currently?
Oh, for sure. So interestingly, as a public company, as we began life, you begin to invest and partner with these companies, and in time, as success begets, you step up and invest further and take a greater ownership position. So with HealthGauge, they began as a partner, but we now own them. They are a part of the AIML family. Tech to Heal is in a similar scenario where we've invested in them. We're supporting and growing them. And we also have an exclusive license for all of their technology here in North America, which we own basically 100%. And so that for us represents a great sort of partnership structure where we can get in, we can be assistive. In other words, we can invest and we can operate and assist in getting market traction. And then as the businesses muscle up and get a little bit, market, we're able to step in and actually take a greater position in the business. And it's been successful to date. So we'll probably continue to do that. And, we're actively out looking at other, quote, partnerships or investee opportunities to participate with.
Okay, that's actually, you're reading my mind. I was going to ask you about any other, potential partnerships. So you are actively out there in the market. Any companies you're actually analyzing right now potentially could have some conversations with?
Oh, 100%. So the way, I won't, for a variety of reasons, cough up the name of the companies. But, here's the continuum of what we look for. And summarize it in those kind of three words around our tech stack: capture, analyze, and action. So anybody where we feel our Pulse Whisper technology, that's the firmware, the SDKs, and the APIs for the biometric signals, anywhere we feel that that can have a play, we are looking for partners, literally, because the wearable market is just exploding. It's just growing like crazy. I'll give you a good example. EssilorLuxottica, about 2 weeks ago, announced that Tech to Heal, just specifically the Alakine platform from Tech to Heal, will be used as part of a 15-company consortium led by EssilorLuxottica to create AR eyewear, through the organization, through this consortium. And our platforms within Tech to Heal will be used for telehealth, for hospital training, remote procedural training, stuff like that, that you can view through eyewear. So that's a great example of where our tech can fit within the context of wearables. Our Analyze, which are the neural nets that we're talking about here, we've a number of licensed partnerships that are developing around that. We're also looking at pulling in other technology to co-license. So that's a fairly frothy segment for us at the moment, because we've really cracked the code on how to train a neural net, how to get it muscled up so it's hardened and ready for clinical submission to groups like the FDA and other regulatory boards. So I see that continuing to grow within the context of AIML. And then, of course, our platforms, these remote patient monitoring platforms, ours particularly with Alakine and Tech to Heal, are incredibly robust. So everything from clinical trials all the way through to very specific use cases for practitioners, sleep clinics, occupational therapists. We've even got physio groups right now working with us on long COVID solutions because they're so robust. So anywhere along that continuum of capture, analyze, and action, we're always looking for businesses to partner with. It just makes sense. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's a big world out there, that, and a lot of opportunities, and the companies trading on the Canadian Securities Exchange, also in the US on the OTCQB, and in Europe on the Frankfurt Exchange as well. So you're covering a lot of ground there. So makes a lot of sense. As far as the company right now at this particular time, are you fully funded?
Yeah, I would say, we're funded. As a public company, you obviously with all the excitement and action in the space, you'll always want to, you always want to raise more capital. And, we're very, very, what I would say, prudent with our capital. I'm very big on measuring twice, cutting once, particularly when it comes to things like budgets and raising capital. So at the moment, I think we're good, but, we will always keep an eye out if time is right, that kind of idea. And then, of course, if, there's a unique partnership or an opportunity that requires us to move on, then we'll move on it, that kind of idea.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Again, I mean, sounds like you guys have a nice business model. You're on the right path from everything that you're saying. And, final question for you, Paul. I mean, anything you'd like to go and tell shareholders? There's going to be definitely prospective investors listening to this particular interview, you and I talking.
Sure.
Anything about what's coming up, potential news you anticipate, revenues, anything you'd like to get out there on behalf of the company?
Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think the meta message to our investors or to potential investors is that, this is a company that is at the beginning of its growth curve. I came in specifically to commercialize these core assets and these core technologies that we have. I have a 30-year career doing that across both public and private businesses, organizations. I've brought in my team to do that with me. And I've got a fairly large bench of folks who will continue to join in that capacity. I've come in because I really believe this business, certainly over the next 12 and definitely 24 months, has the potential to, essentially dominate certain market segments. Blood pressure measurement right now, specifically with wearables, is wide open and one that we can greatly dominate, and it's a massive market. The clinical trials that I spoke of earlier as another segment, it's a sleeper market. It's not the kind of thing that's super sexy and people talk about all the time, but it's huge. And with the reset of AI, the number of trials that are being either contemplated or in queue to be delivered. In fact, some of our clients tell us that they need trials just to trial their trial to get it approved. Just tells me that that is one of those up and coming segments that again we can rapidly capitalize on. So what I would say to folks is keep an eye on AIML. I think you will be quite surprised at how quick we move and the markets that we begin to enter. And of course, I'm always available to talk to any shareholders that are interested in chatting.
Sounds wonderful, Paul. Now, the corporate website is AIML-innovations.com. That's the corporate website. Company trades, as I mentioned, Canadian Securities Exchange. Ticker symbol is AIML. That's M as in Mary, AIML. OTCQB over here in the US at AIMLF. And in Frankfurt, on the Frankfurt Exchange in Germany, it is 42F as in Frank, B as in boy, 42FB. Our special guest today, what a pleasure, Paul Duffy, CEO of AIML Innovations, Inc. Paul, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon.